Hi guys, welcome to yet another fun DIY sailboat refit weekend here aboard Athena. Fair warning, this video is going to be slightly different. On the day after tomorrow, that's on Sunday, I'll be driving down to the boat show in Fredericia here in Denmark, and I am going to bring along the camera, but I only have a vague idea of some stuff I want to show you, and of course I have no idea of what's going to happen on that day, so we'll just have to see how that goes. I was hoping I could start out this video by grabbing a fresh set of moisture readings from the hull, but seeing as it's raining, and it has been raining for the most of the day, I better put that off until tomorrow. And in fact, we better get inside before it starts pouring down again. Before we get to any of the DIY stuff, there is a bit of news that I want to share with you, but let's just get out of the rain first. Oh, it's a lot nicer in here, that's for sure. About a month ago, I mentioned that I'd quit my old job and that I'd be relocating to the east coast of Jutland, closer to my new job. Well, there's been a slight change of plans, and I'm now going to stay put here in Skive. I've been offered a new, super exciting and very cool job right here in Skive, and it's just a lot more convenient for me to stay put, especially while Athena is still up on the hard. For one, I wouldn't have been able to move Athena with me to the new marina, and that would mean driving back and forth on weekends. That's not impossible to do, but it would be kind of annoying when trying to build up coats of varnish. Also, I've got a slip for Athena right here in Skive, and that means as soon as I'm done working on her, she can splash. And it would have been potentially years until I could get in a slip big enough in the new marina. And last but not least, my yearly slip fee here in Skive is under a third of what it would have been in the new marina. Also, there was a little bit of a mix-up with the new marina, where it turned out I couldn't legally have lived there unless I purchased a slip rather than just renting one. Anywho, long story short, Athena, Obelix, Jökull and I are gonna stay put here in Skive, at least for now. And that means the pressure to complete the aft cabin in there within the next couple of weeks is off. My plans for the immediate future haven't changed. I'm still gonna finish painting in there and install the locker above the chat table, and then get started on rewiring all of the AC stuff here aboard the boat, and then the DC stuff. So the plan hasn't changed, but it is kind of nice that the pressure is off. Although I have been kind of busy trying to sort out my life for this past week, I have also managed to apply 4 coats of paint in the aft cabin. And that means I'm now ready to apply the 5th and hopefully final coat. But let's head in there and take a look. If you've seen some of my recent videos, you can hopefully tell that things are looking a little bit brighter in here in the portside aft cabin. I think it looks great. I know it comes down to personal taste, but I really like it. Looking at this, I think I can get away with just that final 5th coat. There are a few other places in here in the aft cabin where I might need to apply 1 additional coat, but we'll see tomorrow. And that is the last bit of painting over with, so let's go ahead and remove the masking tape. Oh yes, that looks pretty dang spiffy. I'm very pleased with this. I think this looks great, and it's a nice sharp line between the varnished wood and the painted plywood. This looks perfect, and I can hardly wait to remove the rest of the masking tape. I've just had a look in here in the aft cabin, and there are a few places where I need 1 more coat, but that's okay. I can easily take care of that tomorrow, and then just tape off this doorway here and then spend a few hours showing you guys some different stuff in here in the saloon, and it'll all work out and I'll be able to remove the last of the masking tape tomorrow. For now, I'm gonna head back to Obelix and take my Icelandic sheepdog Jökull for his evening walk. Good morning guys! It is Saturday morning, and much like yesterday, I'd hoped I could start out today by grabbing those moisture readings from the hull. But, surprise, surprise, it's still frickin' raining. Of course, it's not the end of the world that it's raining outside. That just means I'll start out my day by doing something else. And the obvious thing would be to apply that last bit of paint in here in the port side aft cabin. Everything in here looks great with the exception of one tiny area, and that's the locker here behind me. That's this locker here. And that's my own fault because one of the coats on here went on extremely light. So in reality, it's more like 5 coats than 6 coats. This is the paint I've used in the port side aft cabin as well as in here in the saloon and also aboard Obelix. To apply this, I've used these foam rollers, and these are great for smooth surfaces and they're relatively inexpensive, so I just use them once and throw them away. It is very convenient not to have to bother with cleaning these rollers. It's not difficult to do and it doesn't take that long, but it is a bit of a messy process and it's a lot easier just to use them once and throw them away. To further aid in cleaning all of this mess up, I line my tray with a plastic bag. Ta-da! Good as new. The plastic bags I use are just these regular old freezer bags. These are great and they cost next to nothing. A tiny piece of masking tape just to help secure the plastic bag and we're good to go. I'll go ahead and apply the last coat of paint and then we can get to the most exciting part, which is of course removing all of the masking tape. Before I show you the finished result in the port side aft cabin, I'd like to paint in there just to cure a little bit, just so that I don't accidentally smear paint all over that varnished wood. So while we're waiting for that to happen, let's just take a quick look at this. This is a part of the chart table, and there's a bit of damage down here that I fixed last weekend by squirting some epoxy in there, and since then I've had these clamps on there, so let's go ahead and remove the clamps and see how that repair turned out. This looks and feels quite sturdy, but of course only time will tell if this will last. There was a little bit of epoxy that squeezed out on the back here that I didn't manage to remove, so I'll have to sand that off. The area I've repaired looks almost good as new, but I have noticed that there is a small crack up here. The hinge that was here wasn't loose or anything like that, and it doesn't feel like there's any delamination of the plywood. There's no bulging or anything like that. So I think it's just this outer piece of trim here that's split, so it's not that big of a deal. This should be ready for me to start varnishing, and it would be kind of nice to have this back on the chart table before I start building the locker above the chart table. So I think I'll apply the first coat of varnish to this before I leave the boat today. While I'm waiting for that paint to cure, I want to show you this. This is a magazine called Good Old Boat, and I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it. This is the latest edition, and if we just randomly flip to page 46, hey, wait a minute, who's that pasty looking guy? Yep, that is yours truly. I think this is the first time anything has ever been printed about my channel, and of course it's super flattering and there are some incredibly kind words in this description of the channel. I want to give a big thank you to the author of this article, Jerry Thompson. Thank you for mentioning my channel, and of course a big thank you to Good Old Boat for publishing the article and also for an awesome magazine. When Good Old Boat reached out to me to offer to send me a magazine so that I could see the article where I was mentioned, which was really cool of them, they also mentioned a new blog that they've helped launch, and that's called Young and Salty. That blog is geared a little bit more towards the younger people, and by the way, I'm not getting paid to say this or anything like that. I honestly feel it's important to get younger people interested in sailing. Otherwise, who's going to buy our boats in 30 or 40 years when we want to retire? Yeah. Think about it. Okay, maybe that isn't the sole reason that we should consider getting young people interested in sailing, but nevertheless, if you know someone who might be interested in that blog, tell them to head over and check out youngandsalty.com. I couldn't help but notice that there's an ad for Defender over here, and that reminds me. In about 3 weeks, I'm gonna head to New York City to hang out with old friends and to check out the big annual sale at Defender. And no, I'm not getting paid to say this either. And what that reminded me of was the meetup for the channel, which is gonna be in Brooklyn at the Fulton Ale House, and all of the details are down below in the description. It's been about 2 hours, and I think the paint in here is cured enough that I don't need to worry about moving around. And yeah, I think this looks great. It is kind of difficult to show you what it looks like in there because it is such a cramped cabin, but I think this looks perfect. The hull here behind me is going to get covered by wooden slats, and of course also that big locker with all of the electronics and the DC and AC stuff that's going to sit here. It's all starting to come together, slowly but surely. Next weekend, I'm going to get started assembling the locker that'll sit above the chat table. And for me to do that, it would be very helpful if I had these two pieces done. This is the bottom of the locker that'll sit up against the bulkhead, and this is the corresponding top piece. And I'd like to have both of these fully painted and ready to go by next weekend. And that means applying the first coat of paint today. But before I can do that, I want to glue these pieces here in place. To do that, I'll use this, which is just plain old wood glue for outdoor use. This is ridiculously well secured now. It's got 4 screws from each side, so that's a total of 8 screws on this short piece here, and a ton of glue in there, and you can see the squeeze out here. I'm just gonna clean that up. Of course, rounding over this edge is in no way required. It just seems like a good idea to do that because there are going to be loads of wires in here, and I'm going to be poking around in here from time to time, and this feels a lot nicer than this. Both of these are now screwed, glued, and ready for the first coat of paint. Ta-da! Now, I know this looks pretty horrible, but remember, this is just the first coat. I've set up a small area in here in the aft cabin where I can varnish this piece here, and because this is such a nice flat surface, I think I'll try my luck using these foam brushes and maybe some of the foam rollers for the later coats. This is what that first coat of varnish looks like, and this is also going to look a lot better once I've got a few more coats on there. I've gotten a bunch of random stuff checked off my to-do list today, and it's been mostly about getting ready for next weekend. I don't know how much of the stuff on my to-do list is going to get crammed into this video, because if I put too much in there, it might get kind of boring, and I also want to leave room for a bit of footage from the boat show. Speaking of the boat show, one of the things I want to make sure I check out while I'm there are different kinds of ovens. I'm flirting with the idea of replacing this one. I'm not sure I'm going to do it, but I am considering it. I already have all of the measurements of this area from when I lined it with stainless steel, and the stainless steel is actually also one of the reasons I'm considering replacing that oven, because I'm not super satisfied about the one I've got now, and I'd hate to drill holes for the gimbal mechanism for that one, only in a few years to discover that I want to upgrade, and then I'd have unsightly holes in my stainless steel. Other than looking at possible replacements for my oven, I think I'll look at a few chart plotters, maybe some electronics, and I really doubt there's going to be anything new under the sun at that boat show, but hey, it's always fun to look, and we'll find out tomorrow. And just like that, tomorrow is today. Welcome to the boat show. As you can see behind me, there's not a lot of people here yet, which is great because that means it's easier to move around. On the drive down here, I was reminded of something I said maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I didn't bring my GoPro while touring the city, but I'm simply not that comfortable shooting video and speaking in public. It's certainly good that's not the case anymore, otherwise this video would get kind of an abrupt ending.
Of course, a big portion of what's here at the boat show are new boats, and I'm just gonna skip them entirely because I already have my dream boat, so there's no need to be tempted by any kind of fancy new boats. I mentioned yesterday that looking at a new oven was at the top of my list for stuff I wanted to do here at the boat show, and this is one of those ovens. This is made by a company called Eno, and I can't really pronounce the name of this model here, but this is their top of the line model. This is basically the same oven. It's a slightly different model. This one is called Open C. As you can see, it looks a little bit different, but the internals of the oven should be the same. Before coming here today, I did a bit of research and I read a lot of reviews of different ovens. The reviews I read all mentioned that the heat distribution in the oven was pretty good, and apparently that's because of this thing. That's the burner that's inside of the oven, and this is a curved shape instead of just a straight line. Of course, one of the good things about coming to a boat show like this is that you can actually feel the things, and this has a very solid feel to it, and it's also very easy to clean. You can simply just lift this part up and you've got very good access. So from what I've seen here today, this could very well end up being my new oven aboard Athena. This is a different model of oven I also wanted to check out, but looking at this, it seems like this would be a lot more difficult to keep clean. There's a line down here. I imagine a lot of grease would get trapped in there. This oven has a single straight burner here in the back, but from the reviews I read, this also had pretty good heat distribution. Of course, that has me wondering if that curved burner in the other oven is really the only way to go, or if that's just a marketing wank. But both these ovens have gotten pretty good reviews, so both are valid options, I think. I've gone ahead and decided to pull the trigger on a new oven or stove for Athena, and while this Force 10 one looks great and has a pretty good reputation, it is kind of out of my price range. I've gotten a great deal on one of these. This is made by Eno, and this is the Open C model I showed you a little earlier on. And well, in a couple of weeks, we'll take a closer look at this. Except I've opted to go for the 3-burner version. This, of course, is the 2-burner version. The new stove should arrive in a couple of weeks, and when it does, we'll take a closer look at it. With the big decision about whether or not to upgrade the stove or oven aboard Athena out of the way, the next thing on my to-do list is to look at some electronics. And I've always been partial to Garmin stuff, and they just so happen to have a stand right here behind me. Specifically, what I'm interested in is a new chart plotter. A while back, I gave away the chart plotter that came with Athena because it would be ridiculously expensive to purchase a chart that covered Denmark. Now, this is the 722 model. That is a 2017 model, and I don't really need that. If I could get a good deal on the 721, which is last year's model, I'd be tempted to go with that. A few minutes ago, there was a box with a Garmin 721 sitting right here. Why is it not there anymore? Well, that's because it's waiting out in my car. I realize it might seem like I've just rushed into this and purchased a new stove and now also a chart plotter, but I have done my homework back aboard Obelix, and I've gotten a really good deal on both of them. The third and final item on my list of things I want to check out is a GMI 20 multifunction NMEA display from Garmin, but I don't think I'm going to find that at a discount here at the boat show. This is that GMI 20 display I mentioned, and like I said, this is a multifunction display. This will display a lot of data on your NMEA 2000 network. So here we've got depth and some position stuff, some fuel flow, wind, apparent wind, barometer, and some engine stuff. Before heading down here, I spent a couple of hours scouring the internet to find the cheapest possible prices for that GMI 20 display and also the chart plotter and the stove. And so far, the cheapest price I've been able to find is at a British web shop. So I'm not going to pick up one of those GMI 20 displays today. I don't really need it, and besides, with the electronic setup I'll have aboard Athena, I'll be able to display those informations on any iPad or phone aboard the boat. So that GMI 20 display can wait. Now that I know I'm not going to pick up that GMI 20 display today, that basically takes care of my to-do list. So the rest of the day, I'm just going to spend checking out some cool stuff. Speaking of cool products, here behind me you can see one of these electronic flares. And of course that is a replacement for a regular flare. But let's take a closer look. This is the Audio Flare Mark III, which denotes it's the third generation. The first generation actually had a laser built in and then some spinning optics up here, whereas this model has some LEDs, which of course is a much more reliable and robust solution. It floats and it's waterproof down to 30 meters, and it'll run for 6 hours on 3 AA lithium batteries. I'll include a link for this down in the description. Right next to that electronic flare is a display of different safety equipment. And this is an EPIRB, this is an AIS man overboard locator, and down here we've got a PLB. On the bottom half of that display are these 3 drawings where you can see how each of these devices work. As you can see here, this is the EPIRB and the PLB, and of course these are pretty similar. The MOB locator, which is based on AIS, is quite different. As you can see, this doesn't transmit your position to a satellite. This will only work within VHF range. While bringing Athena home from Scotland, I noticed that the pressure water pump was obnoxiously loud, and I've just had a chance to listen to this shore flow pump, which makes almost no noise. So if any of you guys have any experience with these pumps, please go ahead and leave a comment down below. I'm very tempted to use one of these aboard Athena. This is very cool. I showed you the GMI-20 just a few minutes ago, and this is one of the other NMEA multifunction displays I've considered. I'll have a lot of Matron gear aboard the boat, and they also have a multifunction display. That's the DSM-150. I've never seen this in real life, so this is very cool. The display on this looks pretty nice, and that was actually my biggest concern about this multifunction display, because I've ever only seen it in printed articles and on websites with a Photoshop screen, and of course that's useless. But looking at this, yeah, I think I might go with this over the GMI-20 display. Of course, there are loads of chatleries here at the boat show, and also a bunch of stuff that I definitely don't need. This electronic owl would be a great example of something I definitely don't need.
It's been a pretty long day. I got back to Skiva around 6 p.m. and I've spent the last couple of hours editing this video. Normally I like to publish my videos around 8 p.m. Danish time on Sundays, but seeing as it's 8 o'clock right now and I still need to render and upload this video, this weekend's video is gonna be a little bit late. I'm very much looking forward to showing you guys the new stove and of course also the new chat plotter. I think in one of the upcoming videos I'll go into a little bit more detail about the electronics I'll have aboard Athena, because it's going to be a pretty cool setup, or at least I think so. Well guys, I better get busy rendering and uploading this video, so yeah, if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, and as always, feel free to leave a comment down below. See you!